How you all doing on this Sunday morning? As you can see, this extra pair of legs, do you see them just dangling along behind me? I'm sharing my space this morning. So I'm going to talk today about thinking into results. And it's just, this has come up quite a bit, and about responsibility. And one of the things that I realized is that this has been a big thing for me in my life in the last couple of years, to really understand and be able to let go of, and the consequences of letting go of responsibility, and the freedom that it sets up. And so this article is really, really interesting. So let me have a read of it to you. Responsibility is a choice, and it truly is the key to freedom. Your future can be everything you've ever dreamed about, and then some. You have the talent and tools to experience one beautiful day after another. Bob's good friend and mentor Val Van de Waal wrote, when a person takes responsibility for their life and the results they are obtaining, they will cease to blame others. Since you cannot change other people, blame is inappropriate. Blaming others causes a person to remain bound in their own prison of their own making. When you take responsibility, blame is eliminated and you're free to grow. Now, that's so true. It's just like when you stop blaming the rest of the world and stop blaming, oh, they did this to me and they did that to me, if only they didn't do that. So that's what I was able to do. You just stop blaming everything outside yourself. But then what do? The only person left to blame is yourself. So I actually then turned all that blame of things not working out to myself, going, well, it's all my fault. That means I'm useless. I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. I absolutely started to bully myself mentally. Does anybody else do that? Like, I know I should know better. I know I could do better. And I should have done that. I should have done the other. And absolutely, that was, for about 18-month period, that's what nearly literally broke me, was that continually blaming myself when I didn't realize that actually, hi Liz, I was actually doing the best that I could. And that's one of the things I want people to be able to let go of, that and just that mental torture of ourselves. We don't need anybody else in the outside world to bully us, because we can bully ourselves absolutely no problem whatsoever. And if you really truly ask yourself, if somebody is getting at you, if you really truly ask yourself, aren't you doing a worse job to you than what they're doing to you? Because that's exactly what I was doing. Those who haven't taken responsibility for their results in life often find themselves in a mental prison. Well, I actually put myself in a mental prison by taking responsibility, but you can let go of that as well and just understand that you're doing the best that you can. Responsibility opens a door and permits you to walk into freedom. If you find yourself confined in such a mental state, understand there is a way out. When a person refuses to accept responsibility for their life, they reject their uniqueness and they turn all the power over to other people, situations, and circumstances. They're no longer in control of their future. They will be hoping something good will happen, and because of past experiences, they will be very likely expecting something they do not want to happen. When you accept responsibility for your life and for the results which you alone determine, you will develop confidence that your dreams can be realized and that your plans be carried out. I mean, this article calls it the greatest thing that can happen in your life. It's like it's the Aladdin's lamp when you start to take. Yes, Liz. It's really funny whenever you do listen to something, it is exactly what you need to listen, like to hear right now. And it's always good for me to remind me of this as well, just to, because I had a conversation last night with my daughter, and it was about that responsibility of other people. And sometimes you dim your light because you don't want to be shining too bright for somebody else. Oh, I don't want them to see that I'm having so much fun because they're not having fun. That's not your responsibility. Not your responsibility whatsoever. Like, you dimming your light means that nobody, we all don't see, but imagine you just shine as bright as you can and sod what other people's opinions are, and you just shine brightly, then other people can follow you and shine. You help other people shine as well. Dr. Rollo May, distinguished psychiatrist, once wrote, the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, it's conformity. It requires great courage to take responsibility for your life. It is so much easier to blame someone else or something outside of you. Isn't that so true? I didn't get on because if it wasn't for them, then, and it was because of certain things happening in the world, that I couldn't do such and such a thing. make excuses or get results. I mean, that's really all there is, isn't it? When I saw that one time being written down, Peggy McCall at one of our trainings with Bob Proctor, it was just literally make excuses or get results. You can't even come up with any excuse then. Do you want results? Well, then quit the excuses. That's it. You can't make another excuse. You can't justify yourself. No justifications, just results. It's up to you. Yeah? And if you don't get it that way, then figure another way around. You don't get that way, figure another way around. You don't get that way, figure another way around. You're here to, you're going to solve problems, and problems are going to come up. But nobody comes here for an easy ride. Well, it can be easy if you want it to be, if you take a different perception on it, but knowing that problems are just going to come up for you to solve, and that's what they're there for. Every question has an answer. That's why it's a question. That's why it's a problem. It has a solution. It's just, you just keep working around it. George Bernard Shaw said, people are always blaming others, blaming circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want. And if they can't find them, they make them. I love that. With the proper understanding, it is the power to free you of unnecessary mental weight that you've been carrying around with you all your life, guaranteed. I remember one time, coaching somebody, and they said about, being bullied when they were younger, and how they didn't like this person. And I said, let me ask you something. This, how you are now, do you think that what you went through made you stronger and made you who you are today? Oh, yeah, without a doubt. God, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. And because of them, and I went, do you see? You went through something so you could be better. Everything you've gone through is so you could be better. So if you could let go of that complaint and, my goodness, it's just a weight off your shoulders. I mean, I could see literally the life rising out of this person going, you've just turned around 20 years of my life. I've been blaming this other person. I now actually want to thank them. Thank you for being mean to me whenever I was younger, because I wouldn't be the person I am today. So everything that you go through to be a better person. So instead of like waiting for a year, 2 years, 5 years to look back and go, God, yeah, because of that. If you're going through something now, why not look at it now and go, yeah, I'm going to learn. I'm going to be better because of this. I am going to be so much better. So thank you for coming to me. And let go and forgive whatever anybody or anything has happened to you in the past, because that is freedom in itself. It is what it is. Harvest the good, forgive the rest, focus on what you want, not what you need, not what you think you should have. What do you want? That's the only prerequisite. I love when Bob says that. I always say that. What do you want? It's the only prerequisite. So ignorance of the principle of letting go of responsibility will most certainly cause a person to experience the destructive emotions of anger, guilt, and resentment. Here it is. There's a vast difference between responsible for and being responsible to. It seems so simple, but don't let this simplicity fool you. There is a big difference. Far too often we inappropriately assume responsibility for something when in fact our real duty to the person may have ended 20 years ago. Unfortunately, for most, they carry that baggage around with them for life, never realizing they had a choice. The correct interpretation of this is you are responsible for your feelings and your results, not another person's. So even as a coach, I'm not responsible for the results of people. I lead people to the water, but I can't force anybody to drink and do the work. So I'm not responsible for. So when people go, oh, well, what's the results of this and what's the results of that? And I go, immediately what you're asking is that, well, if these people didn't get results, then there's an excuse for me not to get a result. This work is from the absolute master himself in human potential. But you have to do the work. That's it. I can't get your results for you. I can't get inside your head. I can't make you do something. Bob shows you the techniques. I help and support you, but they're your results. Now, here's the thing about our children, and it's that you're responsible. So this is where it goes. The correct interpretation is you're responsible for your feelings and your results and not another person's. You may be responsible to another person for one thing or another, but not for another person. The exception, of course, is when you choose to take the responsibility of raising children until they reach the age of maturity. In that case, you are both responsible to and for them until such time as they become responsible for themselves. Now, here's the thing, if you take responsibility for your children when they're then responsible for themselves, or you take responsibility for another adult when they are responsible for themselves, nothing positive comes of the misuse of responsibility. When you take on responsibility for another person's feelings, results, or actions, you destroy their self-reliance and self-respect. Boom, right there. You think that you're doing good by being responsible for somebody else and for their feelings. Are you happy? Let me look after you. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do the other. But what you do is you take away their empowerment for them to learn themselves. It's like a curriculum in school. Like, how dare you stop somebody learning that curriculum? Who did you decide that you decided that they shouldn't learn that curriculum? That's what they're going through. That's their journey. It's not the same as us. We can't stop somebody from learning. If we stop them from learning this lesson here, they will learn it in a greater extent later on. There's nothing you can do to stop your children. That was the biggest one for me. Your children have to learn their own lessons. My mine are now 21 and 27, and I wanted to protect them. And you spend your life, that as a mother, well, I'm happy when my kids are happy. And then to turn that around, it doesn't work. I mean, it took a good 2 years for me to turn that around, to go, well, I'm not responsible for my children's happiness anymore. I did my best. So I don't know who you think you're responsible for, or do you dim your light because you don't want to shine so brightly for somebody else because they're not doing so well? Like, you can't be poor enough to help the poor. You can't be sad enough to help the sad. You can't be depressed enough to help the depressed. How do you help those people? By being the best version of yourself and enjoying life and having fun and being that shining example that they can literally follow you. So if you're doing that, if you're holding on responsibility for other people, let it go. Feel how good that feels and just go, oh my goodness, I'm disempowering you by being responsible for you. And you don't want to do that. And I know you don't want to do that, but you think it's the right thing to do that for them. Stop worrying about them and just go, here you go. It's your responsibility to be happy. They may not like it. They may not like it at all, but they'll never learn unless you step back and let them be responsible for themselves. At times, it might even be appealing to contemplate having another person take on our responsibilities for us. We could even trick ourselves into believing that by doing this, we would be more free to play, have fun, and do the things we wanted. Without serious thought, it might never enter our mind that exactly the opposite would happen. When you permit others to take on your responsibilities, you become dependent on them. They become the giver and you become the receiver. Your well-being is dependent upon their generosity. Hopefully, at some point, it will become very clear that this kind of behavior only leads to a life of lack, limitation, resentment, and confusion on the parts of both the giver and the receiver. I thought that. And there was one point as well where I was relying on Wolfgang to take responsibility. And I remember even thinking, wouldn't it be great if somebody just had this and this and this, and they looked after me and I did that. And then when that happened to me, because you create everything that you think about, by the way, thoughts become things. Don't be having random thoughts like that, because then when you get it and you go, I didn't mean this. I didn't mean that I wanted to be completely renege responsibility for myself. But that's what I felt. But my resentment was towards me, absolutely beating myself up because somebody else was providing for me when I provided for myself and my family the whole way along. And then when I no longer could and somebody else was providing for me, I beat myself up. And that's not what I wanted. So, guess the end of this article is that you're responsible for all the results in your life. You're responsible for your happiness. You're responsible for your health. You're responsible for your wealth. You're responsible for your emotional state, regardless of what's happened in the past, the future ahead, The future lies ahead with an open state waiting for you to take control and create a wonderful life for yourself. Winston Churchill, who certainly knew something about responsibility, said responsibility is the price of greatness. Here's a marvelous affirmation that you can verbalize every night before you go to sleep and every morning as you step out of bed. I am responsible for my life, for my feelings, for my personal growth, and for every result I get. There you go. But don't let that. Here's the thing, yeah? Don't be beating yourself up going, I'm not getting the results. I'm not good enough at this, that, and the other. No. Just you're doing the best that you can. Some days you have a good day, other days it's not so good. The law of rhythm is like that. So you have a rhythm. So today's best may not be as good as yesterday's best. It just is. And you're always doing the best that you can do. And that's it. And so is everybody else. So hand back the responsibility for somebody else to be their own happiness, and you be responsible for you. So when you're in a relationship and you're 100% responsible and they're 100% responsible, you have baggage, they have baggage. You're responsible for yours and they're responsible for theirs. Nothing. Don't ever confuse that issue, or you get it. So listen, have an absolutely awesome day and let go. Be happy. Just have a wonderful day. And I'll see you soon. Thanks so much for all your lovely comments here. I'm just like seeing them coming through. So speak to you soon. Bye-bye.